DeepSeek, great. So, இப்போ DeepSeek வந்து புதுசாக வந்திருக்கு. அது ஒரு AI மாடல், எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும் இல்லையா? I mean, you guys have, you would have heard about it, right? It's in the news everywhere. But I would say it's in the news for the wrong reasons, right? இப்போ என்னன்னா, there was a rowdy, ஒரு rowdy இருந்தான். He is a lender. And ரமேஷ்னு ஒருத்தர் இருந்தான். And he took some loan from this rowdy lender. அப்புறம் கொஞ்ச நேரம் கழிச்சு, after a couple of weeks, couple of months, he was unable to pay the principal and interest. And rowdy வந்து உடனே started beating him. நீ காசு கொடுக்கல, அசலும் தரல, வட்டியும் தரல, நீ இன்னைக்குள்ள காசு தரலனா உன்னோட காதை வெட்டிடுவேன். அந்த ரமேஷ் is saying, சார் காதை மட்டும் வெட்டிடாதீங்க சார், காது வெட்டிட்டா எனக்கு கண்ணு தெரியாமல் போயிடும் சார். And the rowdy was like super shocked. இப்போ காதை வெட்டினா எப்படிப்பா கண்ணு தெரியாமல் போகும்னு? ஆமாம் சார், காதை வெட்டினா கண்ணாடி எதில் சார் மாட்டுவேன்? அது மாதிரி டைரெக்டாக இஸ் லுக்கிங் அட் தி கொலாட்ரல் டேமேஜ், டைரக்ட் டேமேஜை பார்க்காம அந்த மாதிரி. ஸோ வித் ரெஸ்பெக்ட் டு DeepSeek, எவ்ரிபடி இஸ் டாக்கிங் அபவுட் தி பிளட் பாத் இன் ஸ்டாக் மார்க்கெட். DeepSeek வந்துருச்சு, உடனே வந்துடுத்து, உடனே நியூயார்க் ஸ்டாக் எக்ஸ்சேஞ்சில் வந்து there was a huge $1 trillion blood bath. Nvidia stock prices dropped by 20%, right? But exactly why did that happen? Who is the, யார் இங்கே பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட்ஸ், யாருக்கு எதிரி, வாட் இஸ் தி அண்டர்லைங் வார் கோயிங் ஆன் ஹியர்? ஸோ அதெல்லாம் we'll look at that deeply in this session, right? So let us start. So let's go to the basics, because I want to spend about 10 minutes explaining, recapping what I explained in the previous session, and I will then go ahead with what DeepSeek has done and what innovations they have done. Basically, AI model performance we can identify using these industry-led benchmarks, right? For example, math and coding, NLP, natural language processing. There are certain exams, like how all of us have exams, like how all of us have JE and or CA exams, and then other type of exams wherein our capability is benchmarked across everybody else. So there are these benchmarks, and DeepSeek has outperformed OpenAI, that is ChatGPT, in most of the benchmarks, technical benchmarks. And coming about performance, as you would know, performance is based on the input training data, which directly controls the accuracy of data, and then the weights and parameters, etc. So these are the technical parameters which affect the performance. And DeepSeek has disrupted because it is open source. So what is open source? Can anybody guess? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, anybody can download and then manually add their data. Perfect. So clap. So chocolate bhavanaga. So, but again, this open source itself is a little murky, tricky area. And then we will directly dive into what this open source is. Is DeepSeek really open source? Because some people say China நம்ம எப்பொழுதுமே நம்ப முடியாது, right? So let us see what exactly open source is. So there is another type of open source which is called as a real open source. See, in ChatGPT or closed source models or proprietary AI models like Gemini, ChatGPT and Claude, you have access to the AI model, but only via API, right? And you do not have access to the training data, nor do you have access to the parameters or the weights, nor do you have access to the research paper. Idu easy an example solnona, let us think of a restaurant, right? And let us say that there is a very interesting signature dish. For example, paneer tikka iruknu vechukonga. Paneer tikka is a food. In a restaurant, you have access to the food. You have access to paneer tikka if you pay money. But you do not have access to the ingredients. Avan enna paneer use pandran, avanave pandrana illa vaangrana, adala we don't have any access. And nor do we have access to the recipe, right? So this weights and parameters, that is the secret sauce. And coming to the research paper, right? So fundamentally, what equipments does his kitchen have? Ellame manual nadakudha illa vandu is everything automated? So these are the different ways in which we can understand open source and closed source and real open source. Coming to Llama and DeepSeek, right? They say they're open source, but what is open source? Only their model is open source. You can only download their model. For example, it is like a wedding hall. In a wedding hall, the food is free, right? You can go and have food. But exactly அவங்க என்ன ingredients யூஸ் பண்றாங்க, அவங்களுடைய ரெசிபி என்ன, அதெல்லாம் போய் இது பண்ண முடியாது. We can't go and dominate there, right? I think you have to be the bright side. But anyways, not all of us, the guests can't do that. Coming to the third one, which is a real open source.
Hello.
More than DeepSeek, right? There is a new model called Tulu version 3, which is released by Allen. There's a company USA called Allen, and another company called Nomic Atlas.
Hello.
So even the companies, they have released their AI model. I mean, performance-wise, it is not really good, but still, it is the world's first real open source, wherein they have, made available the model, the training data, the parameters and weights, the research paper, everything is open source. Right now, you can go to their website and you can type, allen.ai, and then you can find out, and then you can go to their GitHub page, wherein you can download their model, you can go download their training data, you can go download their weights. Which means today you have, or all of us have, the ability to create our own LLM. ஒரு LLM create பண்ணனும்னா major issue என்ன, training data வேணும், அதுக்கு அப்புறம் அந்த recipe வேணும். We need all those weights and parameters, because as you know, ChatGPT has how many parameters? Raise your hand and answer. Last session we covered that. How many parameters or weights does OpenAI have? ChatGPT 4o. It can be a wrong guess. It can be a super wrong guess. I really don't care. It can be a super wrong guess. In 100 million, huh? Or is it more or less than 100 million? You can raise your hand and answer. Less. Okay, so he says that it is less than 100 million parameters. Anybody from this side, how many of you say it is more than 100 million? Raise your hands. Okay, do one thing, right? So all of you close your eyes. Now raise your hands. How many of you think that OpenAI has more than 100 million parameters? Raise your hands. Because I don't want any peer pressure. அவன் கை தூக்குனா இவன் கை தூக்கல, அந்த peer pressure எல்லாம் வேண்டாம். So you can close your eyes and raise your hands. Raise your hands if you feel it has less than 100 million parameters. Okay, so the majority says that OpenAI has less than 100 million parameters. Well, let me go back, right? As you know, in the previous session, we talked about a very interesting AI model called BERT. BERT was an AI model which was released by Google in the year 2018. At that time, that was its capstone AI model, right? The best AI model. Otherwise, it was trained in 160 million parameters. So, to put it into perspective of how much we have grown exponentially, 1 million parameters would be about 12-13 days. And OpenAI is trained in about 1 trillion parameters. So how many days or months do you think 1 trillion seconds would be? You can guess. Raise your hands and you can guess. See, BERT model vandhudu 2018 la. It was trained in 160 million parameters. And today we have ChatGPT which is trained in 1 trillion parameters. Now, to understand the growth, right? Because I don't want to show charts, etc., all those technical stuff. Just to understand the growth in very simple terms, 160 million seconds would be 12 days, and 1 trillion seconds would be any guess. As I told you, I really don't want right answers. I'm okay with any type of answers. Someone from this side, yeah, you can raise your hand and you can answer. Huh? 30 years. Okay, raise your hands if you feel the answer is more than 500 years. So all of you think it is less than 500 years? Well, I'm sorry, the answer is wrong. The actual answer is 32,000 years. So we have grown from 12 days to 32,000 years in just about 8 years time, right? That is the exponential growth which we have had. And as we speak, Amazon is building a 4 trillion parameter AI model called Olympus, which is going to, be super smart. Yeah, so this real open source is like a Korean barbecue restaurant. So as you would have seen in certain restaurants, high posh restaurants, the customers themselves can go and cook along with the chef. So the customers would have access to the food, they would have access to the ingredients because they will be cooking along with the chef, right? So that is the example, a Korean barbecue restaurant or a Japanese, those Japanese restaurants where the customers cook their own food. ஸோ யாருக்கெல்லாம் அந்த மாமியார் ஜோக் ஞாபகம் இருக்கு? யூ கேன் ரைஸ் யூர் ஹேண்ட். So all of you remember the joke, but not the technical stuff which we discussed last session. Because I will say it again because that is again relevant here. This has to be an interactive session, right? So very quickly going, this mother-in-law who had 3 sons-in-law, first son-in-law being a doctor, second son-in-law being an engineer, third one being a CA. She wanted to test the loyalty, and then she jumped into the ocean. The first son-in-law being a doctor jumped in immediately and saved her. She was happy. She gave him a car. She gave him a Honda City car. And then she did the same in front of the second son-in-law who was an engineer. He hesitated a little bit, but anyways, he jumped and saved her. She gave him a what? Bike. இதெல்லாம் அப்படியே ஜோக்கோடைய எல்லா காம்பனன்ஸும் கரெக்டாக நாங்கள் வச்சுட்டு இருக்கேங்க. ஸோ தேர்ட் சன்-in-law முன்னாடி when she is jumping, this guy is a CA, statistician, who he sees a pattern and he's like, what's the point in saving her? Because anyways, if I jump and save her, I will get a cycle. So he doesn't save her, and at the end of the week, his father-in-law gives him a Benz car because the mother-in-law is no more. So in that situation, being silent and doing nothing was advantageous, but this is not that situation, right? So this is a a situation where all of you have to be super interactive. Okay, great. Okay, so any doubts still here? Because if you don't have any doubts, I will start asking questions. No doubts? The BSc students and BCA students, no doubts?
So where does DeepSeek come in? About this 5
Yeah, so DeepSeek is an open source model. Last in the sense?
3 columns. You have yes everywhere or no everywhere?
No, I will show. So DeepSeek is just an open source model wherein only the model is available for download. Not the training data, not the weights. Only the model is available for download. Model and the research paper. So I will just show the example. So it is there in the next slide. So let me ask this question, a slightly tricky question, and then we will see. For this question, I will even give you 2 chocolates. How many parameters does DeepSeek have? DeepSeek R1, right? The capstone, the super intelligent, the ZENITH model of DeepSeek. There are different models in DeepSeek. DeepSeek 6 billion, DeepSeek 7 billion. DeepSeek 7 billion are just a 4 GB. You can go download in your own laptop. I will show you how to do that, right? And in fact, I've downloaded a DeepSeek 8 billion parameter in my Mac laptop. So how many parameters do you think DeepSeek R1 has? Because people say, right, it is also tested that DeepSeek is better than ChatGPT. So according to you, should DeepSeek have more parameters or less parameters? More. Less. How many of you say more? Raise your hands. So all of you say less? Well, check panningala yaradhu ipo. Okay, so DeepSeek has less number of parameters. Yes, so all of you are correct. Very good. Surprisingly, DeepSeek has less number of parameters. How many do they have? They have about 671 billion parameters, whereas ChatGPT has 1 trillion, just 67% down. Still, he has achieved the accuracy which ChatGPT has achieved, and in fact, better than them, better than ChatGPT in so many technical benchmarks. Right? When you talk about coding, DeepSeek is super good in coding. In fact, my team and I are using DeepSeek more than Claude or more than OpenAI. Now, why is this? So when you talk about the technical terms or the technical specifications which lead to the better improvements or which lead to the better performance of an AI model, parameters alone do not lead the way. There is another important aspect called as the embeddings. How many of you remember, or can any one of you explain the LLM process in a nutshell? Remember last session I had shown you about 5 processes. One is tokenization, and then etc. So can any one of you stand and answer the and let me know what are the 5 processes in an AI in a large language model? What is the first process? You can guess. Just now I told you what the first process is. Tokenization. Good. What is tokenization? One of you stand up and answer. Boss, நீங்க சொல்லுங்க boss. What is tokenization? Perfect. So you should raise your hand and answer. Yeah, superb. So what he is saying is, whenever a user gives an input to an AI model like ChatGPT, the word gets split into how many characters? 4. Who said 4? 4. Okay. How many of you say it's 3? Raise your hand. How? Okay, superb. How many of you say it's 4? Okay, OpenAI uses 3 characters as one token, and Gemini uses 4, Claude uses 5, but mostly it is between 3 to 5. So what exactly happens is, when I say hi, hello, how are you to ChatGPT, immediately hi is classified as a single token because hi is only 2 characters, H and I. Hello is more than 3, so hello gets classified into 2 tokens, HEL and LO. How are you? These 3 words having 3 characters will be single tokens. Now, what is the second process? Yes. Oh, fine. So, embeddings is the second process. What do we do in this embedding? Any one of you can, stand up and answer. Because last session I got a brilliant question on this embedding. I don't know who asked. Someone had asked me, why don't we do accurate embedding? Why do we do trial and error process of replotting the same embedding again and again? And that was a brilliant question. And that question is what has given birth to LCMs, which is large concept models, which is being developed by Meta right now. Anyways, I will just quickly go with what embeddings are. Oh yeah, one second. Okay. Yeah. So what happens is, whenever we give a word, let us say hi, this word hi gets plotted in a predefined space, right? How many plots or how many dimensions you ask? It is about 12,888 dimensions. சிம்பிளா எடுத்துக்கணும்னா நம்ம வந்து லைட்னு ஒரு வேர்ட் எடுத்துப்போம், LIGHT, light. And for simplicity, let us say it is one single token, right? Because light being more than 3 characters will become 2 tokens. But for simplicity, let us say light, is just a single token. And for again simplicity, let us say that there are only 4 dimensions. One is weight, other is color, other is you can say you can guess weight, color, and then brightness, height, etc. So what happens is, when we give the word light in a sentence, the token for that particular word light is plotted in the predefined space. So who gives this predefined space? That is the initial pre-training process. Now you would relate the name of ChatGPT, GPT standing for generative pre-trained transformers. So what happens is, ஒரு டோக்கனும் அதோடைய predefined spaceல போய் plot ஆகுது. லைட்ல வந்து ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் வெயிட்டோட டிமென்ஷன்ல let us say it is 1, and then colorல let us say it is 0, and then with respect to mode it is 5. Now based on this sentence, it will go and replot itself, right? It will go replot again and again and again. How does this replotting happen? That is based on self attention. ஒரு டோக்கனும் ஒரு டோக்கன் கிட்ட போய் 3 கேள்வி கேக்குது, right? That is, we call them as a Q, K and V, query vector and key vector and value vector. So it goes, each token goes to each other token and asks, hey boss, how are we related? What are your likes and dislikes? இப்போ காலேஜ் டே 1ல எப்படி நீங்க எல்லாரும் ஃப்ரெஷ் மைண்டோட யாருக்கும் தெரியாம வரீங்களோ, but end of the day all of you form groups. Like for example, there is a group which loves cricket, and then there's a group which loves math, and then there's a group which loves something else. Similarly, each token talks to each other token and then finds the similarity amongst them and then replots the token again and again. If I say a sentence, for example, hit the light switch, இப்போ என்ன ஆகும்னா வெயிட்டோடைய டிமென்ஷன்ல 0 ஆயிடும், கலரோட டிமென்ஷன்ல 0 ஆயிடும், ஆனால் பிரைட்னஸ் ஒரு டிமென்ஷன் இருக்கும். Because hit the light switch directly relates to the dimension brightness. அதில் போய் the 0 will become 2 or 3, right? So similarly, For each and every token, we find the similarity, and this is how we understand the context. So this comes from Attention is All You Need, which was written by Indian scientists and American scientists from Google. Ashish Vaswani was one of the, as Maharaj told, he was one of the pioneering scientists who authored this paper. This paper came in the year 2017. So this is what transformers are based out of. So now coming back, ChatGPT, generative pre-trained transformers. This is how normal traditional transformers work. Now what did DeepSeek do? It already 2017 le paathache, right? What is DeepSeek doing? In a nutshell, DeepSeek is able to run on very simple compute, simple laptops. ChatGPT number 4 model run pannuna, we need about 22 NVIDIA H100s, which costs about $1.8 million. Whereas in order to run DeepSeek R1, I'm talking about the most advanced model, R1, 671 billion parameters, we require a system which costs about $5,000 US. A typical Mac M4 machine with about 96 GB VRAM, we are able to comfortably run the DeepSeek model. So the dominance of NVIDIA is now completely destroyed, because NVIDIA is a company which sells chips on which these AI companies run their models. And given that DeepSeek does not require powerful chips, sadharna or 3 lakh rupee laptop podum. In fact, in my own Mac, I have downloaded the mid variant of DeepSeek, and the size of DeepSeek R1 is surprisingly just 1.3 TB. I will show you the website as well. நீங்க போய் ஒரு 10,000 ரூபாய் கொடுத்து ஒரு ஹார்ட் டிஸ்க் வாங்கி 2 TB ஹார்ட் டிஸ்க் நீங்க ரிலையன்ஸ் டிஜிட்டல்ல போய் வாங்குனீங்கன்னா DeepSeek மாடல் நீங்க வந்து you can download and you can have the entire model in your own hard disk. Of course, in order to run it, you have to, you need to have a slightly advanced system. But as a matter of fact, today DeepSeek has enabled, the world. It is saying to the world, hey boss, AI is not a game for the rich people. Even the, upper middle class or middle class, even they can go and play this game. Even small companies, even small startups can make such powerful LLMs and compete with the industry leading LLMs. So DeepSeek it has been developed at a cost of about $6 million, whereas OpenAI has been developed at a cost of about $7 billion USD. $1 billion வந்து கிட்டத்தட்ட 8,500 crores, அது மாதிரி 7 times. And whereas DeepSeek has been developed in just about $5 million. Now what is DeepSeek and how did they achieve this in just 5 million USD, right? So with a single line la sollona, DeepSeek itself is an AI generated AI model. Like how we go to ChatGPT and generate images, and how we go to ChatGPT and write emails, right? It's basically AI generated content. DeepSeek enna pannirukana, he has not spent all the time in the world and money to go and find good data to train. He has used ChatGPT itself to go and generate training data and then again use that to fine tune his own model. So this technical term, process for the name for this process is called as model distillation. நீங்க வந்து இன்டர்நெட்ல DeepSeek போட்டீங்கன்னா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் மாடல் டிஸ்டிலேஷன் தான் வரும். என்ன பண்ணிருக்கானா AI மாடல்ல ஒரு டேட்டாவே எடுத்துக்கிட்டு it has been training. Now the advantage in this is, in cases where you don't have good data, you can now have data. For example, let us say that there is a very rare provision in the act, in the Indian constitution. It has never been used anywhere. எந்த விதமான ஒரு ரெஃபரன்சஸுமே இல்லை. Supreme Court has never given any decisions based on that. So now you don't have enough data on that. But now you can go to ChatGPT and give that particular article and say, hey, give me illustrations, give me use cases on this. So now the DeepSeek has become an expert even in that particular rare data, rare information, where the information or the data was not available anywhere in the world. And this is why OpenAI has now is now fighting with the DeepSeek. Hey, this guy he's not really a true guy, even a fraud மாதிரி தான் என்னோட டேட்டா வச்சுட்டு தான் he has been he has trained his data. But again, that calls for another debate, right? Because there was an OpenAI engineer called Suchir Balaji. How many of you know him? How many of you have heard about that case, Suchir Balaji case? You can raise your hands. A couple of months ago, a US based OpenAI engineer passed away in his house. I mean, people say, everybody unofficially says it's a suicide. So basically, he was an OpenAI engineer who wrote a blog, right, about how ChatGPT gets its data. So basically, ChatGPT goes and scrapes all of the copyrighted websites, copyrighted, articles, etc., and has used all those things for training its data. So like கர்மா மாதிரி அவன் எப்படி காப்பிரைட்டட் கண்டென்ட் யூஸ் பண்ணானோ இவன் வந்து இவனுடைய ஜிபிடி மூலமாவே எடுத்து he has trained his data. Yeah, absolutely. So, now that is to summarize the LLM architecture, right? So LLMs are broadly built on two types of architectures. So now we have completed the tokenization, embeddings, and positional encoding. So positional encoding is the third process. Positional encoding enna pannuna, it will give the index, or it will give the position of each and every token. Because as you know, when we give an input data, all the tokens are parallelly processed. So now if I say Simbu loves Nayantara or Nayantara loves Simbu, right? The meaning completely changes. And AI does not know that because it parallelly processes that. That is why we need a map. We need a positional encoding which says, okay, this token is the first one. This is the second token. This is the third token. Otherwise, we will be able to find the context behind that. And now the third process is the self-attention, right? So self-attention is where this continuous replotting goes on and on and on and on and on. இப்போ அந்த செல்ஃப் அட்டென்ஷன் தான் we have a very very important distinction, which is the architecture, which is the encoders and the decoders. How many of you have heard about decoders or the word NLP? You can raise a hand. NLP எல்லாம் கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்க. You would have heard about the word NLP, right? And why do you think NLP models are all based on decoder architecture? You can raise a hand. Why are NLP based AI models based on decoder architecture? You can raise a hand. You can also answer wrongly. There's no issue about that. So basically, decoder based architectures do one thing, that is they do this masked self attention. ஒரு குதிரைக்கு நம்ம எப்படி கண்ணில் போடுறோமோ, நம்ம ஏன் குதிரை கண்ணில் போடுறோம்? சைடில் எங்கேயும் பார்க்கக்கூடாது, நேராக தான் பார்க்கணும். அந்த மாதிரி when the decoder based AI model generates output, it generates token by token. See, you have to understand the difference. Input வாங்கறச்சே parallel process பண்ணுது. It is processing the input parallelly, but when it generates the data, it generates token by token, mimicking the human behavior. See, நான் இப்போ பேசுறச்சே என்னுடைய கிராமர், என்னுடைய வார்த்தைகள் வந்து it is based on the couple of 2-3 words what I have spoken before. Typically, similarly, if we hide the initial data and if we show only the past 2 or 3 tokens, that will basically mimic the human behavior. That is how ChatGPT is able to talk just like a human. On ChatGPT, if you go and look at the if you open an app and then if you click this chat button, you can actually talk to ChatGPT. How many of you use ChatGPT? Because I'm going to show you some ChatGPT tricks right now. Okay, super. So do you have the app installed in your phone right now? Okay, so just go do one thing. Go open the app. Who wants to come and talk to ChatGPT? Raise your hand. Who wants to talk? You can raise your hand. If you don't raise your hand, I will choose. Just a பேசணும், voice to voice. Boss, நீங்க வாங்க boss. Yes, you come. You can come and talk to ChatGPT. Yes. So you can clap your hands. He is now going to talk to OpenAI. When you open your ChatGPT account, you will have a similar UI. and you just have to go click the bottom right button, which has these small lines. If you click that, you will now be able to talk to ChatGPT. Yeah, I'm just having some internet issues. So if you go and click that, you can go sit down. If you go click that, you'll be able to chat with the AI, right? And there's no need of even texting. It will text back via a voice. Yeah. So this one I only wanted to. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, this one. Yeah, I sent you a mail. Now we have discussed the architecture of OpenAI, and we'll directly jump into what DeepSeek has done. Yeah. Was I?
No.
I have emailed. No, I have emailed this one only. Huh? This one. Huh? Yeah. Right. So until we solve this little technical hiccup, we will go and have a very quick Q&A session, and you can ask me questions, and then we'll directly jump into the economics, how the economic world, the pricing world works behind this AI space. So does anybody have any question? Yeah. Yes. Superb question, right? You can clap hands, and it's an amazing question. So his question is, why did ChatGPT not distill, right? இது எப்படின்னா 19 or rather 1700s why didn't people use the car? Because the car never existed. So in the year 2019, right, when ChatGPT 2 was released, right, so when ChatGPT 2 and 3, the base models are being trained, அப்போ வந்து a very good AI model did not exist. See, in order to generate data, we need to have a very good AI model. Give me 10 points about this particular topic. And my solrache. Right now, today, OpenAI is very good and is able to say that. But during those times, in 2019, there was no AI model to help ChatGPT. So it used to take data by basically scraping off the internet, and then finding and then processing those data. It did not have any mechanism to go and generate data in a particular data or on a particular topic, whereas DeepSeek has that. And DeepSeek has done another interesting technological innovation. I will explain that. In traditional transformers, we have self-attention, wherein token by token, we ask 3 questions, etc. We match. So it is like basically epdina, it is like having multiple eyes and reading one para. Each eye is reading a different line. Let us say that there is a para with 10 lines and you have 10 eyes. Each eye is reading one line, and then at the end of the session, each and every eye is talking to the other eye, saying, hey, this is what I found in this line, how are we related, etc. This is how a traditional transformer works. The DeepSeek AI model has taken a beautiful approach. He is doing a multi-head latent attention. What he is doing is he is finding some hidden data between these lines. It is like how typically a detective goes to a crime scene. He not only looks at the data, he also tries to find what was the motivation behind this crime, right? Just hidden, in the details. So that is how DeepSeek was able to, give great, amazing results. Now coming to the crux, coming to the heart of how DeepSeek has made this cheap, because at the end of the day, stock markets have crashed and everybody is unhappy because this guy has achieved what is what took billions of dollars in just a couple of millions of dollars. அவன் என்ன பண்ணிருக்கானா, he has completely removed the concept of SFTs, which is supervised fine tuning. Whenever we train an LLM, there are three different ways in which we train. One is we give an extract. Like for example, extract is like your theory. ஒரு மேத்ஸ் புக்ல எப்படி தியரி இருக்குமோ அதுக்கப்புறம் we have illustrations with questions and then steps and then the answer, and then at the end of the book we have questions with just the final answer in the last page. So we can compare extracts as to the theory given in the books, and you can compare illustrations to the SFTs. In SFTs, that is in supervised fine-tuned training, we give the problem, we also give the solution. And in reinforcement learning, we only give the problem. We don't give we give the solution, but that is a final solution. We don't give the stepwise, we don't give the hints, etc. And DeepSeek has completely eliminated SFTs, right? Some Mahan in this company has took a daring decision. Why do we need SFTs? What will happen if we completely eliminate SFTs? So because SFTs used to cost a lot of compute, and now that they have eliminated SFTs, they were able to train the data with super less compute costs. So because typically reinforcement learning costs very low, extract based training also costs super low, and with these approaches, right, there's also another approach, interesting approach called MOE, which is mixture of experts. In ChatGPT, when you ask a question, all the experts inside the LLM will discuss together and answer. Whereas in DeepSeek, when you give a query, the query will be sent to a specific group of experts. So now we are not activating the entire all the parameters. We are just activating a couple of parameters. That is why we are able to run DeepSeek in just a simple machine, right? In just a simple 5 lakh rupee computer, rather than a 18 crore rupee, 22 NVIDIA H100s cost about 18 crores. So ChatGPT run banana, it will cost you about 18 crores, whereas DeepSeek will cost you just about 5 lakh rupees. So these are the underlying technological innovations which DeepSeek has done, and we were able to and then was able to defeat OpenAI. Uh-huh.
Given a query, you zone into one particular network.
Yeah.
Correct? That you can do hierarchically and still reduce it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where this is where we have this concept called as a RAG approach, which is a retrieval augmented generation, wherein we chunk the data and then link the input query with only a particular chunk, and then finds the data in that particular chunk. So adula we can even further we can fine tune and then make it even more cheap to run. Yeah, so I wanted to explain the embeddings. So let us say light as a token, it has a predefined space in some different dimensions, which is weight and color and brightness and mood. This is actually very important because I will be saying why people don't rely on DeepSeek, because that being a Chinese model. Why do they say that, right? It is mainly because the input training data is extremely important. See, there is something called as GIGO, right? Garbage in and garbage out. If you give garbage, you get garbage, and we don't know what DeepSeek has done with with this model. So as I said, each and every token has a predefined space. So who decides this predefined space? On what basis does predefined space is given to a particular token? When we talk about light, let us say DeepSeek has trained in just in data which talk about weight, like he is lightweighted or she is lightweighted. அவன் ட்ரெயின் பண்ணிருக்க எல்லா டாக்குமெண்ட்லயும் வெயிட் பத்தியே இருக்கு. அதனால தான் ப்ரீடிஃபைன் ஸ்பேஸ்ல இட் இஸ் 3, and hardly a couple of documents had anything about brightness, like with respect to electricity or tube light, etc. And that is why it is -1. So this is why it is important to choose the AI model irrespective of its costs, because these predefined space for of a token is different in each and every LLM. ஏன்னா அவங்க ட்ரெயின் பண்ணிருக்க டேட்டா எப்படின்னு நமக்கு தெரியாது. அவங்கள அவங்களுடைய, ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இன் OpenAI, when they're training, they could have had data talking about volume. Hey, increase the volume is very light, or you can increase the volume or decrease the volume. And in LLM, in OpenAI, the predefined space for light may be even 10. So we don't know the predefined, plots, and that is why input training data is extremely important. Yeah. So when we give the word hit the light switch, as I said, there's a process of replotting again and again, which happens in self attention. So 96 times, right? We call them as multi-head transformers, right? In DeepSeek, we call them as multi-head latent attention. It is getting replotted again and again based on the input text. If it is about electricity, like hit the light switch, right? So if weight on the zero, because this sentence does not talk about weight, and this sentence does not talk about color, but it talks about brightness. So now you can see it has been replotted to 4 based on the surrounding sentences. This is how LLMs understand context. Yeah. So that is where, I mean, that is how LLMs, typical traditional LLMs work. Now coming to DeepSeek and OpenAI, right? So the model is DeepSeek has an advanced, underlying model architecture, which is MOE. As I said, it is mixture of experts. When we give an input, it gets allotted to a group of experts. Whereas in ChatGPT, every expert comes and answers, right? So ellaru vaai vekranga, idhu vandu expert mattum dhaan is giving their opinion. The cost, I would say, right, there are different pricing methodologies. So DeepSeek is basically 97% cheaper than OpenAI. And so DeepSeek runs on a very, very cheap NVIDIA GPU, which is costing about $5,000. Wherein that runs on a $1.2 million system. So what are the different types of AIs which we have today, right? So we have discussed about LLMs. Now we will go ahead and discuss about more sophisticated type of LLMs, which is something called as a RAG model, a retrieval augmented generation. So retrieval augmented generation, we are building a chatbot with our own data and containing the power of LLM to that particular data. For example, we have built Mahapariva GPT, wherein we have trained the Mahapariva's GPT on the books which Mahapariva has written. If you ask any other irrelevant question, it wouldn't answer, because we are containing the LLM only to the documents that we upload. And talking about the economics of using DeepSeek and then using RAG and then using a typical RAG, we have two types of RAG. One which is based on closed source, which is built on top of Gemini or OpenAI. Basically, closed source RAG, we will make an API call to ChatGPT. Again, he will charge based on the whatever, I think $10 for 1 million tokens. And then we have another type of RAG which is based on open source. So in the open source RAG, we can make a simple chatbot and we can host in our own server. We can use Llama or we can use DeepSeek, and then we can do the chatting completely in an open source based system. But economically, there are a couple of things, right? So with respect to accuracy, a custom DeepSeek LLM is the best. DeepSeek he has also revolutionized the industry by giving the access to people to make their own LLM. Today, all of you can make your own LLM at a cost of about $30, right? Just to you can make your own LLM, right? I mean, not exactly from scratch, but you can build on top of the LLM. RAG custom LLM custom DeepSeek LLM is a basic difference. In a RAG, we have our data. That is, the data is chunked in the sense it is just in a JSON format, and then we have an underlying LLM. In a custom DeepSeek, we don't have any chunked data or anything else. We only have the LLM because the data is trained in the LLM itself. But ChatGPT, when we attach a document, it is basically like using the document with the underlying LLM being OpenAI. But it would be great if we have ChatGPT already trained in our own data, right? So that is the difference between RAG and custom GPT. So custom GPT, there's a one-time cost, right? It's about $30 or $50 depending on the size of the data. Or 1 GB key, I think if you want to train the DeepSeek with 1 GB of data, it costs about $30 or $40. And the cost is the electricity cost. Because these servers will run for a couple of hours, right? So the cost is electricity. So that depends on the place we are. I mean, this pricing is based on USA. So exactly, I'm not sure whether the Indian electricity cost is more or less than USA, but this is based on the US electricity cost. So it's basically free of cost, but again, there's also that's a catch. You have to pay the electricity cost. And then we come into the usage cost, right? So this custom GPT being, your own model, there is no usage cost, no variable cost as well. In a closed source, we have two costs. One is the fixed cost and then the usage cost. The fixed cost is the embedding model for which we pay data, which is OpenAI. And then there is also the API cost. But in the open source, we have only a fixed cost, we don't have a variable cost. Now, I will choose only the first one, because the first one being the accuracy, right? Because at the end of the day, we want accurate data. And I mean, why would anyone go for a very basic LLM, right? A chatbot which does not reply or which does not give the desired output based on our inputs. So we can adjust the hyperparameters in custom DeepSeek LLM. We can also adjust the hyperparameters in RAG and the open source, closed source. But in DeepSeek, we can also give our input data. RAG la when we upload our data, that is separate. You can see physically, if you look at the back end of the entire application, you can see that there is a JSON file and then there is a model. But in DeepSeek, you only have a model because the data is gone inside the model. So there is no cost of there's no fixed cost, which is the embedding model, because each time the model goes outside its its boundaries and then fetches the data, there is a fixed usage cost, which is the embedding model.
But then you have to train it, right? Because it's a local, you have to first train on the data.
For the custom DeepSeek, right? Yes. So we have to train that. So training cost is also one time. So one time cost is the training cost, which is yes, because it costs.
Guys, tell me a good application of this. Give me, in the college context, give me a good application of this particular parameters. Tell me. As I'm listening to him, I'm getting an idea. I want to see whether you guys get the idea. A huge advantage we have because of this custom DeepSeek LLM having a one-time cost for training vis-a-vis a RAG model with a lesser accuracy. So what is the application? Tell me. We will reserve the answer to the end of the session. We will remember the question, okay? Listen.
Yeah. So directly jumping into the economics, right? So let me just quickly go around what are the costs, etc. How does the AI world make money? So going to the basics, right? We have already covered this in the first session. The unit of measurement in the AI world is tokens. Rice bag the unit of measurement in the AI world is tokens. So we pay money for each and every token, each and every data we give. As you can see, we give data. The very first thing is tokenization. It counts how many tokens are there. And then at the end of the session, at the end of the process, there is also a tokenization happening for the output embeddings. Typically, Kalyanthla caterer evlo plate count பண்றாங்களே உள்ள வரச்சே இவ்ளோ பேர் அப்ப சாப்பிட்டதுக்கு அப்புறம் ஒரு plate கொடுக்கறச்சே he is counting how many plates, and then based on the number of plates he is charging the bride and the groom. Similarly, all AI companies, when I say AI companies, I mean the closed source AI companies or the proprietary AI companies like OpenAI, Gemini and Claude, which charge you based on the amount of data you give, amount of data you get. When I say hi, hello, how are you, adako let's say X rupees, it immediately replies back, yes, I'm fine, how are you, right? So adako a cost. So whatever data we give, whatever data we get back, we are charged. It is like a rental model wherein we rent the model for just our input data. Yeah. So modes of implementing, right? So from an economic point of view, there are three modes of implementing. One is, as you know, a proprietary LLMs. Proprietary LLMs, the interesting thing is there is no fixed cost because you don't have to bear the hosting charges, etc. but you have to pay for the usage, right? So usage la vandu enna, what does he charge, right? He's charging us, $10 for 1 million tokens. So in the $10 la, what are the things he is realizing? His overheads will be the R&D. For example, ChatGPT he wants to recover the R&D cost, he will have to recover the server cost, and then he will have his own profit margin, right? So அவனுடைய pricingல மூணு விஷயங்கள், at least இந்த மூணு விஷயங்கள் அடங்கி இருக்கு. Coming, yeah. என்ன சார்?
பிஸா ஹட் போனோம்னாக்க ஒரு டாப்பிங் கேட்குறான்.
எஸ்.
வாட் இஸ் த பிரெட் இது, ஆர் டேக் யூ சப்வே. அது மாதிரி இஸ் தேர் எனி கைட் ஃபார் சூசிங் த டோக்கன்ஸ் ஃபார் தட் வி டோன்ட் ஹேவ் எஃபெக்டிவ் காஸ்டிங்? Choosing tokens. For example, if I'm a particular chemical engineer or something like that, I don't waste the tokens for a particular.
Absolutely. So I mean,
is there any guide for choosing the tokens?
Question, right? That is why we use the prompt engineering techniques to reduce the number of tokens, so that we don't end up with a huge bill. So we use prompt engineering techniques, and we get the desired output with just the limited number of tokens which we give. And open source models, it is, as you know, like DeepSeek, right? There's only a fixed cost of hosting, as you know, that as I said, it's about $5,000. Adukapra usage is completely free of cost. And then there is an interesting business model which has right now come up, something called as a hybrid, wherein companies host open source LLMs and then give you an API access to the open source LLMs, because the cost of hosting open source LLMs is still huge, right? $5,000 is still huge, and $5,000 இப்பதான் வந்தது. Until a couple of weeks ago, the cost of hosting open source LLMs used to be huge. It used to be, you had to have at least one NVIDIA H100, which costs about 40-50 lakhs. அதனால a new business model has emerged called as a hybrid model, wherein there's a company called Grok, wherein you can go and you can access open source LLMs using an API access. The interesting thing is, there is no R&D cost, because these companies never invented the model. Grok did not invent the OpenAI model, they did not invent the Gemini model, so there's no need for them to recover the R&D costs, which makes the API cost cheaper than the proprietary LLMs. So how to calculate costing, right? So we have to look at the LLM configurations, and then we also have to calculate number of tokens. At the end of the day, the costing is based on how many tokens you send, how many tokens you get. And for images and videos, the pricing is little more complex, but again, the image is also getting converted into number of tokens, and then the output is also getting converted into number of tokens. So it's all based on how many tokens you give, how many tokens you get, and how do we reduce the tokens. So a very appropriate question asked by Mr. Kannusamy sir. அவர் கேட்டார், எப்படி நம்ம tokens reduce பண்ணலாம்? I don't want to come up with a huge bill, right? So there are two implementations of ChatGPT, right? There are two types wherein you can you can have an immediate one you can have a normal mode wherein you pay for the whatever number of tokens you give and get. And then there is a very interesting process called as batch mode, which was introduced by OpenAI. Now it is being given by all other companies like Google and Claude. So everybody is giving this batch mode, wherein they charge you only 50%, but you get the output after 24 hours. We can use them for low priority tasks, etc., wherein the output is not required immediately, right? So charges are based on tokens, and they are used during input, and then they are used using output. So GPT-4 pricing, right? So it is $20 for 1 million tokens, or 10 lakh words. Sorry, 10 lakh tokens. So 10 lakh tokens would be around 700,000 or 7 lakh words, because 3 tokens, right? 3 characters being 1 token. About 700,000 words would be around 10 lakh tokens. And then in the price, in the batch mode, you can see it is 50% of that, so you get it super cheap. And then right, as sir said, how to reduce cost, right? How to reduce tokens. So that is by effective prompting. So prompting na ellarum enna nenikranga, that is you have to change the input. Hey, give me this. Sai varalena vera mari, hey nee kuduklena na kochipen, and marla people think prompting is more of changing the input text, which it is actually not, because the word prompt engineering is adukku peri insult ah irukum, like adding a word engineering and then saying that prompt engineering means changing the input text, right? So which is done by any lawyer or any detective. So what exactly is prompt engineering, or how do we technically control the model? This is prompt engineering, wherein there are 6 hyperparameters, and these hyperparameters are some internal variables which you can adjust in the LLM. they will significantly change our output style. இப்போ prompt நார்மலாக நம்ம இன்புட் கொடுக்குறோம், இன்புட் கொடுக்கறச்சே சரியாக அவுட்புட் வரல, மறுபடியும் மாற்றுறோம். You would have noticed that it is similar to the to the previous answer. If you want to have an output which is significantly different, then you have to change the mathematics behind the probabilities. You do that by adjusting these parameters. And what does temperature cover? It covers creativity, and then top K controls the randomness. See, in certain tasks, like for example, we have developed a RAG model for the US election department for the state of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. Adla we have trained the RAG on election laws, and we don't want the AI to be creative, right? Law na, it has to be concise, it has to be pragmatic, it has to be super clear. And other than that, we had to adjust these parameters to make sure that the output is it is based on the use case. Because if you are using this for let us say social media, we want it to be super creative. When we want to generate images, when we want to generate videos, we want to make sure that the AI is super creative, because we don't have the time to describe, we want a tree here, tree la 10 leaf irukno, 10 apple irukno, 5 banana irukno. We don't have the time for that. So we want the AI to be super creative by itself. So for those use cases wherein you generate audio, video, and basically a use case wherein you use it for content writing and social media, you have to adjust these hyperparameters. And for any use case, you have to do this trial and error process, right? Ipo naanga we are building an agentic AI which analyzes financial statements and makes sure that they are compliant with respect to the government rules. For example, or டிராஃப்ட் ஆடிட் ரிப்போர்ட்டை அப்லோட் பண்ணியாச்சுன்னா இண்டேஎஸ் ரூல்ஸ் இருக்குது, கேரோ ரூல்ஸ் இருக்குது. ஆடிட் ரிப்போர்ட்டில் ஹெட்டிங் இருக்கணும், டேட் இருக்கணும், அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒரு யூடின்னு ஒரு நம்பர் இருக்கணும், அந்த யூடின் நம்பரில் 18 டிஜிட் இருக்கணும். இந்த மாதிரி பேசிக் செக்ஸ்லாம் ஆல்ரெடி இருக்குது. பட் வாட் ஹேப்பன்ஸ் இஸ் manual errors occur. So in order to use AI for this particular process, for each and every point, like there is a checklist, right? Typically what auditors use is they have a checklist, and then they see and then they map with the auditor's report. Okay, there are no spelling errors, the annexures, the reference to the notes to accounts, everything is perfect. So in the mari checklist irkarche, what we should do when we are automating that using AI is that we have to do a trial and error process and find out the appropriate mixture for each and every point. And then there is top K which controls the randomness, and then there is a top P which controls the relative randomness. Randomness, now let's say we give ChatGPT, hey, give me a story or give me a slogan. We want it to be really awesome, really random, so that we don't copy anybody. And then relative randomness is something which covers the randomness across sentences, so that your story is not completely first sentence நம்ம இப்போ புஷ்பா 2 அதான் நடந்துச்சு. தட் இஸ் ஸ்டார்டிங்கில் ஏதோ ஒரு ஜாப்பனீஸ் சீன் நடந்தது. அதுக்கப்புறம் நான் கடைசி வரை படம் பார்த்தேன், 3 hours பார்த்தேன், லிங்கே பண்ணல, எனக்கு புரியவே இல்லை எனக்கு ஜாப்பனீஸ் சீன் எதுக்கு பண்ணான்னு. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரியான தப்புக்கு அந்த மாதிரியான இஷ்யூஸாக நடக்கக்கூடாதுன்னா we have to control the relative randomness. And then there is a frequency penalty which controls the repetitiveness, and then there is a presence penalty which controls the new ideas. And then stop sequence, it is like a red chain which you have in the train. In the particular word generate ஆயிடுதுன்னா you have to stop the AI generation. For example, in use cases like Mahapariva GPT, by some through some way wherein the user is able to do prompt injection and somehow is able to convince the AI to talk about some irrelevant topic like politics or the cinema. I have manually given some words, some stop sequence words. Okay, if you ரஜினிகாந்த் கொடுத்துருப்பேன், by mistake AI ரஜினிகாந்த்னு ஜெனரேட் பண்ணிடுதுன்னா it will stop the generation. So the user won't see the word, won't see these particular set of words. Basically, we can control the length of the output. We can also control the AI and limiting that to certain words and certain phrases. Yeah. So I will now go and show you these prompt engineering techniques directly in my console, and then we will wrap up for the Q&A. So temperature, top K, top எல்லாம் பார்த்தோம். இதெல்லாம் எங்க போடணும்? Like when we talk about these hyper parameters, exactly where do we change these, where do we adjust them, where do we control them? It can be connected, huh? Okay, no, it's fine. Right, I will give you guys a homework. there is a website called playground.openai. When you go to playground.openai, you can go and adjust these hyperparameters, right? So I'm not able to connect my system here, so I would have been able to show it here. So anyways, you can go and you can take this. You can take this as a homework. You have to log in into your computer, and then you have to go to this website called playground.openai. .com or I exactly don't know .us. Say there you can go and you can adjust those hyperparameters and see for yourself how the output style is different. So now we'll have the Q&A session. Ready? Yeah? Because Q&A, I will also ask questions. That is also a Q&A session. Okay, yes. So you go, sir. Can we have a mic for? Yeah. And Kishore, be ready with the chocolate. Yeah, nobody has received any chocolate till now.
Since training AI on AI generated data, you mentioned a concept, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
Training AI models on AI generated data could cause like the implicit biases and errors
absolutely
of ChatGPT to be further accentuated. Is that a problem you see?
Perfect. I mean, that is 100% a problem, and that problem has been, so I mean, as Maharaj said, right, so that is one of the reasons which leads to hallucination, wherein the AI starts giving wrong information, blatantly wrong, right? So wrong. So that is really an issue, and but DeepSeek was able to control that by doing something called as RLWVR, which is reinforcement learning with verifiable rewards. So enna பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா, they will give commands to ChatGPT, generate data, and then use that data to train, and then look at how the performance has changed. So aduvum again using back propagation, whether that is good or right. So they were able to control all those issues, the inherent issues when you develop data based on AI generated data, right? So those issues have been solved by DeepSeek. So I mean, anyways, it was a brilliant question.
And another question, your thoughts about the scarcity of good data caused by AI generated articles, the hallucination which haven't been verified, like news articles using AI and blog posts, those when mixed in with AI training data could further also cause hallucinations. How do you mitigate that?
So technically what causes hallucination, right? There are two things. One is wrong data being trained, but adu kuda very vishayam illa. The real issue is the AI model not given enough data. Right? What happens is when you don't give enough data, training data, because these AI models have huge number of parameters. Like ஒரு கல்யாணத்துல வந்து 1000 பேருக்கு சமைச்சு வச்சுட்டு கடைசியில 10 பேர் தான் வந்தாங்க, எப்படி இருக்கும் அந்த how will the caterers feel, right? So in the same way, there's huge number of parameters, and in order to actually have a very good model, you have to give huge data. And when you don't give huge data, the AI model by-hearts the input data, and instead of finding context, instead of using it to understand the knowledge, it will sort of by-heart it, and then generate the output. And then by-heart panni output kudukarche, when you ask a different question, when you ask in a different way, ஒரு நம்ம வந்து எக்ஸாமுக்கு வந்து பைஹார்ட் பண்ணி இதான் சொல்லுவாங்க, டோன்ட் பைஹார்ட் அண்ட் கோ, அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் தி கான்செப்ட் அண்ட் கோ. So when you bihart and go and when the question is in a different way, we won't know, and then we'll blabber something. So that is what happens when the input training data is not enough. The other issue is when there are too many dimensions, right? So as I've shown you, ChatGPT has about 12,888 dimensions. So it is like having multiple people giving an opinion on a particular topic. So இப்போ ஒரு கன்சல்டன்ஸ் வந்து ஒரு பிஸ்னஸ் வந்து அனலைஸ் பண்ணணும்னா they do a SWOT analysis, which is strength, weakness, opportunities and threats. They do only 4 things, right? So strength பார்ப்பாங்க, weakness பார்ப்பாங்க, அந்த மாதிரி. When we have very less but specific number of dimensions, basically leading to something called as a small language models. So coming back, right? So basically what I'm indirectly asking is, how to control hallucination. We can control that by only having small language models. Previously, small language models was only a dream, because small language models it is like trained on your custom data. When I said custom DeepSeek LLM, it is basically a small language model. You are having your own data, and then you're inputting that data into the LLM. Previously, this was impossible because the cost of training was to be so huge. But now that the cost of training is just electricity cost, and the electricity cost also being free in a couple of states. UPBR la free in ranga. Angalam poi pannona we can train large data for free of cost. And now we have something called as the small language models coming into the industry, wherein the hallucination is low because we have only the required number of dimensions. We don't have so many dimensions. For example, light in word understand pandradhukku I had shown you 4 dimensions, which is weight and color. Now imagine if we had one particular dimension called as ancient. Like for example, when we talk about Mahabharat, ancient or particular dimension irukum adula vandu it will go and it will click and it will say this is a very relevant dimension. So we have a lot of irrelevant dimensions which leads to hallucination, right? So yeah, so I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yes, so next question. I want to have a rapid round, boss. Come on. Last time it was an awesome Q&A session, so I want to have a similar Q&A session.
Sir, so here.
Yeah.
So, do you think the future of AI is dependent on how good or how accurately we distill the data, as in how it processes or how the dimensions are like calculated?
Wow, I mean that's actually a great question, because what you're saying is, can we use the DeepSeek approach and create our own LLM? I would say, boss, why are you aiming with DeepSeek? I had shown you the AI model called Tulu and Nomic Atlas, where you have access to the weights, which is the secret sauce. That is the main thing, right? And directly you can go and make changes there, and you can make your own LLM. You don't have to again distill data. See, the future is, I believe, is small language model. Small language model is trained in your own custom data. So when you have the data, for example, if I'm an election body and I have data of citizens, which citizen has donated how many dollars to which political party, and all those other data, right? So for US has about 25 million rows of data, and we have trained that in the RAG model. And adula vandu enna, that is we can actually create a small language model. There's no need to do this. Distillation is basically generating data from an existing AI model. Technically there is a teacher model and then there is a student model. So teacher model, it is trained with a lot of information, but the teacher model is able to give only a very good concise bullet points, like how typically in colleges teachers give you notes instead of giving you this big textbook. So and the madri distillation was required for DeepSeek because they had funding issues, and but the future of LLMs, I would say, according to my humble opinion, that would be SLMs. SLMs on the distillation, there is no question about that, because we have the data. I have the data and I want to train it on LLM. I don't need to generate through AI. So yeah.
So do you mind another question?
Yeah.
So you told me like SLMs are going to be the future, as in from what you said. Do you think like multiple SLMs can work together to form an environment where anything can work?
That is, I mean, we are circling back to MOEs, which is mixture of experts. So DeepSeek uses that same approach. When you give an input data, it first classifies that into topics or the relevance of the topics in which it has been asked, and it assigns a group of experts to it. So what you're saying is, can we have multiple SLMs? It is basically agentic AI application, right? Or SLMs, but LLMs. Right now, the agentic AI application which I developed is based on LLMs. So I have different LLMs for different use cases, right? For example, Gemini is very good with image extraction. If you give a very bad invoice, with wear and tear, etc., Gemini would perfectly extract that. So if you want to do invoice processing and check processing, I would say Gemini is the best model. Whereas if you want to use NLP, right, if you want to have a very good chat, etc., natural humanistic feel agumna, then you have to use OpenAI. So using different LMs or language models for different use cases is basically agentic AI, and that can be done with SLMs, just like how it is already being done with LLMs. Super. Yes. Yeah, so absolutely, sir. There are these technical benchmarks. For example, OECD is an organization which is a joint venture of the UK government and the US government. And on the particular OECD.com, that is, they have mechanisms to understand and find the efficiency of AI applications. So when I develop AI products for MNCs, right, the very first question they ask is, hey, what's your integrity? You're a small startup. உங்களுக்கு ISO certification கிடையாது, எந்த certification கிடையாது. Not even 12 months has, is over since it started. So I wanted to have certifications for my products. So there are these certifications which you can go for your AI application, which is given by this with this joint venture organization OECD. I'm not sure what the full form is. They have a metric or they have a benchmark called as a HARIM plus, HARIM plus, wherein you can give access to your application, and then they do an automated check. They check the efficiency of the AI application, and then they give you the score. So now you can say, oh hey, I am certified by this semi-government organization, and I'm compliant with all the AI rules, ethical AI, moral AI, all those. They have this list of the Biden administration has a list of these points. Yeah. Uh-huh. So coming to data, right? With respect to open source LLMs, the data security is not an issue because the data is in our own server. With respect to closed source or a hybrid mode, since we use an API, the data goes to their server, and then there is an issue with data. Though they say that we don't access your data, there are whistleblowers who say the otherwise. But we can be 100% sure that with open source LLMs, the data integrity is 100% there. There is no issue with the data because you can access the entire application without the use of internet. Yeah.
My question is, how can I start my own AI company? So how can I do R&D and how much investment that would cost?
Wow. I mean, all of us have to clap for this question. The very fact that, he has asked this, a brilliant question because he wants to be an entrepreneur, right? And that's I always respect entrepreneurs, and it is amazing to see a fellow potential entrepreneur. Incubation. Oh yes. So of course, உங்களுக்கு வந்து you are lucky because RKM is going to start their own incubation cell. And coming to the legal points, right? So typically incubation cells provides you a lot of facilities. That is primarily it gives you the office space. I was incubated in April in Vailtech TBI, Vailtech University, and then there are basically other benefits. Primary benefits being you get accreditation. See, you are a company with zero revenue, right? In April I was a company with zero revenue, but the difference was a company with zero revenue versus an incubated company with zero revenue is government has certified you that you are a high-tech, highly innovative, scalable company, right? இப்போ revenue இல்லை, but still ஒரு சாதாரண business, unincubated businessக்கும் incubated businessக்கும் என்ன difference? You have that government accreditation that okay, you are something, you have potential. And coming to the investment required, etc. So you have to let me know, do you want to create AI applications or do you want to create your own LLM? Perfect. So I would say my humble advice would be to develop AI applications and then start from there and then find use cases. So I will let you know a very a small secret. I quit school after class 8 and I joined my father's NGO Tapas Trust to join as a faculty for math, science and computer science, and I've recorded about 800 hours of videos. But more than a faculty, I've been more of a tech head because this being a technology project, having all the complications of a typical commercial tech project. And then I was associated with NGOs, since age 13, 14, right? I was associated with Samskrit Bharati, and anga vandu I used to take up, the tech projects, right? So avangaloda technology initiatives, everything I used to handle, whatever things, and then the advantage that you get there is you get the connections with influential people, right? For example, in Samskrit Bharati, I had the opportunity to meet a minister and also the president of India, wherein he had come for their programs. So idhula vandu all these things basically give you credibility, right? So you can start with servicing very small clients, and then with God's blessing you will do great. Investment wise, I see the thing is investment is tricky, right? So it is almost zero today. because when you are incubated and when you apply to Google, right? So your raw material cost would be AI cost, cloud cost, etc. என்னோட raw material அதான். அது வந்து I got a grant of about $7,000 from Google, and I got that because I was incubated with Welltech. So my primary initial cost, my office cost, my raw material cost, etc., all those things were taken care, and then I had some liquidity, to start. But what amount in keta I can't say, right? So exactly amount in சொல்லவே முடியாது, because it completely depends. If you are able to build a team of interns, unpaid interns, right? Or or rather you pay them a couple of thousand rupees per month, and then start from there, and then based on the advance money you get from your projects, and then slowly get the ball rolling, right? So I can say today you can start at 0 rupees, right? 0 rupees is the cost. The cost of getting a PAN card is 50 rupees. You won't believe, just 50 rupees you can get a PAN card. It's cheaper than all these bhaji, bonda, all those things you get. So the cost of incorporating an unregistered partnership is at max 50 rupees. You have to get a 20 rupees stamp paper for 22 rupees with commission, etc. So 50 rupees you can start your own company, and you can for free of cost you can get incubated, and then for free of cost you can create a Google Cloud account, get $7,000, and then for free of cost you can start servicing clients. You just need a laptop, that's it.
So my name is Sachin.
Just one second. Yes.
Sir, actually you told SLMs will have lower dimensions, sir.
SLMs will have
Less dimensions.
yeah.
So if we apply Sir, if we use SLMs in critical situations like dealing with a client or something like that.
So you use SLMs for critical situations like
Dealing with clients.
Oh, I mean, what exactly do you mean dealing with clients? See,
like
we need to have the highest number of dimensions for one use case, that is NLP. In chatbots, basically, because chatbots, you need to have the general reasoning capability, because you're basically building a machine which is going to talk like a human.
No, sir. Actually, will it be? Actually, it might break down in between. No, sir. Unlike LLMs, SLMs are less effective. No, sir. In that manner.
I mean,
and it's blind to certain dimensions, sir.
Yeah.
Actually.
So I mean, coming there, right, answering the question, I would say it is the opposite. Why SLMs are more accurate than LLMs is that there are useless dimensions, boss. There are completely useless dimensions available. For example, last pona session I would have discussed, right, rating movies in 3 dimensions, like whether the song is good or not, whether the movie is hit or flop, and then whether the story is good or bad. So we had 3 dimensions. So there are 12,888 dimensions, and then at least 3,000 dimensions just working towards the human talking nature, human behavior, like the past tense, present tense, etc. For specific use cases like coding, programming, we don't even need to activate all these dimensions. So adanal enna aguduna, you're unnecessarily having another unwanted guy's opinion. When you have an unwanted guy's opinion, right, so it starts to hallucinate. Oh, avan solradhu unmaiya irakalam pole. So when it comes to SLMs, it is more important to have an AI consultant who can rightly train on specific dimensions and completely avoid the irrelevant ones, right? So adu pandradhukku there are various automated technologies to how do you find the related ones, because adukku pandradhu it is like creating your own LLM, right?
Sir, will it handle
RLWVR, which is reinforcement learning with the verifiable rewards. So what we do is we remove a group of dimensions and then we check the output, and then we remove them, we remove the a couple of dimensions, and then we add them back, etc. So we do all sorts of combinations and then see which dimensions is completely necessary and which ones are unnecessary, and then we can have a small language model, because small is with respect to the number of parameters, right? So adula we are able to generate or create a LLM, create a language model which is perfect and 100% compliant for the specific use case.
Sir, but will it sir, actually will it face the unexpected situations, sir, like SLM?
it is a good question. So ஒரு chemistry
Actually-
கிட்ட வந்து English question கேட்டா சொல்வாங்களான்னு கேக்குற மாதிரி இருக்கு.
Actually,
பண்ண
that's-
மாட்டாங்க.
actually-
So, the SLM will fail. See, the thing is, you have built an SLM for coding, and then when you ask opinion on art, etc., it would suck. But the point is, we are building the SLM only for a specific use case, so we would never do that. And then even if you are creating agentic AI wherein we are linking that, we will make sure that the data passes in such a way wherein the SLM's input is only the appropriate data for the use case which it has been built for. So adanala we can there is no way when if you go ask SLM built for a particular use case about something else, then that is your mistake. Adu seriya it is not able to give, we can't complain about the SLM.
No, sir. If you actually didn't thought of the possibility and built the SLMs.
I understand, right? So there might be situations where you might need the other dimensions, right? That is exactly what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
So,
That's
see, this is the inherent issue with AI, right? So 99% cases only it is able to automate. So 1%, you should be happy that it can't do it. Otherwise, all of us will lose jobs. You can say, hey, AI can't do that 1%. Now I'm the expert in the 1%. Now you can say, if AI is able to do the 100 everything, right? What will happen to us? So you should, rather use that as a USP and say why AI can't replace us. Right? Let's say we have 100 tasks a day, and then AI can only replace 50 tasks. It can't replace the remaining 50 tasks of what I do. So that's the USP which you use, which you should use.
Hi sir, myself Manian from 3rd BCA. I have a question. Does the quality of the data influence the performance of LLM, sir?
Sorry, pardon?
Does the quality of the data influence the performance of the LLM?
Yeah, so the very first slide which I showed you had these 3 points, which is the input training data, which affects the accuracy of data. So yeah, it literally it affects the quality of data.
Okay.
See, now if I say Sachin Tendulkar is a great sportsman at what sport? You guys will say cricket. If I say Mr. Ganesh is a great sportsman at what sport? You won't know. See, context puride. You know, okay, Ganesh is a sportsman at some sport, but you don't know data illa. So which means it won't be an effective LLM.
Yes sir, but that data has come to quality when the people have some knowledge, no? If you ask a sports person about Sachin Tendulkar, he will say he is a great sportsman. So if you ask a 1-year child or 2 years baby, who is a great sportsman according to you? Can he say the same answer?
Sorry, I didn't get your last point which you made. So if you ask what question?
If you ask a person who has sports knowledge about Sachin Tendulkar is a great sportsman in cricket, he say yes, he is definitely the great sportsman in cricket. If you have the same question in 2 years or newborn child or someone who
I
is
ask the same question at 2 years.
2 years or newborn child who is currently
Okay, understood.
can you say the same answer, sir?
No, definitely not. So because what you're saying is, will I get a different output
Yes, sir.
from a specific LLM and from a general purpose LLM? You won't get the same output because the training data is different.
Yes sir, but according to the training data, ChatGPT has around, you said ChatGPT has only more dimensions than DeepSeek AI.
See, the thing is, it can understand. See, the thing is, since it has more dimensions, it has the ability to understand context, but it doesn't necessarily is an expert in topic in any given topic. அது input training data என்ன இருக்குன்னு தெரியாது. ஆரம்பிக்கிறச்சே I showed you that we only have API access to the model. We don't know what data it has been trained on. So if ChatGPT is not giving you the desired results, then you have to build a RAG model. RAG model, you can use the intelligence of OpenAI, but on your data, like how we have built this Mahabharata GPT, wherein because ChatGPT did not have the Devathan Kural trained in its data. So we had to scan all the books and scan all the pages and then upload that and train that. And we are using the OpenAI because it is for the same reason why you're asking this question, right? Because you're saying OpenAI is super intelligent. Then no. But the thing is, if it doesn't have data, then we have to add data on top of that. So the other techniques are RAG model, etc. So these are the techniques to which we can use AI's intelligence for our data.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, hi sir. Myself Motish. One simple question.
Yes.
How much AI does affect human thinking and analysis?
How much?
AI affects human thinking and analysis.
Uh, how much AI affects human thinking, right? I mean, it's actually a question which I have to think about because I've been using AI for almost 2 years continuously. So I have to analyze what I was 2 years ago and what I am now. I mean, if you use it for the right way, you would be able to, you would be having Albert Einstein in your fingertips. You'd be having the best singer in your fingertips. You'd be having the best or a politician and then mathematician in your fingertips. So it's a tool, right? If you use it great, then it's amazing. Like chumma, if you just make give jokes, hey Siri, eventually if you just use it for general stuff, I mean, it won't be useful, but you can use it for your college.
Sir, myself Bharat. Which is best? OpenAI best or DeepSeek is best, sir?
Yeah, so I mean verdict, right? So in the use case தான் நீங்க சொன்னீங்க.
Like user point of view, sir.
See, depends on the user. So are you an American company, American citizen? I mean, there are political agendas, right? DeepSeek being a China-based company, right? Because see, I have a prejudiced opinion because the YouTubers whom I follow are the Republican people. They follow the Trump administration. So if the use case is typically from a Western country, there will be inherent issues to use a Chinese model. And then there are other issues which I feel with DeepSeek, right? See, DeepSeek la enna there's a huge bias which he has trained. Yeah, and math is super powerful. It is super powerful. But for NLP, right? For NLP, basically chatting, I would say you should not use DeepSeek because there is huge bias. If you just go to DeepSeek and say Taiwan is a different country, say yes. It will say no. Taiwan is part of China. Avlo bias oda irukku. If you ask OpenAI or if you ask Meta in your WhatsApp, make jokes on Hinduism or Rama, Lord Krishna, it will make jokes. But if you say make jokes on Muhammad, it will say sorry, I can't make, it is sensitive. So these are all inherent religious and political biases. So which ஒரு பயாஸோட இருக்கக்கூடிய AI வந்து we cannot use it for a chatting base because chatting is basically human to human interaction. We're trying to mimic that. But for other specific use case, like as Maharaj told, for coding and mathematics, we can definitely use that.
Hi sir, one question. ChatGPT is most familiar and most of the peoples are used in the world, but DeepSeek is now come and beat the ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But in future, any new model can beat DeepSeek?
Already வந்துருதுன்னு சொல்றாங்க. Qwen 2.5, Alibaba's AI, right? There is a new AI called Qwen 2.5, which the Alibaba CTO says that it is better than DeepSeek. So the war is crazy, right? Every week. And then there's a separate pricing war going on by Google. My cloud bill used to be a couple of ₹1,000 a month. Now it is just about 400-500 rupees. My usage has only increased, right? My usage has increased and my cloud bill has decreased because there's a huge price cutting war going behind Google and cloud and OpenAI. And adukapra intellectual war going behind AI companies who is giving a good AI model. So it is always it's a competition, right? And no one can hold the first position for a long time. And OpenAI held that position for a very long time, and now it has lost the first position. And in fact, as you would say, OpenAI has regained the position. DeepSeek launched, I think 2.5 weeks ago they launched DeepSeek, and then OpenAI and the Hugging Face is this website wherein they give the benchmarks of which are the top LLMs. And then OpenAI became number 2 for a couple of days. And then Sam Altman, the chairman of OpenAI. In fact, you should go visit. You should go to Twitter and see how these people have been replying. It's an amazing gossip and a very intellectual. It gives a lot of knowledge of how all these companies work together, right? அவங்க என்ன பண்ணிருக்காங்கன்னா immediately when DeepSeek defeated OpenAI, Sam Altman released his new model, which was due for releasing only in June. Immediately, so he has released a new model called O3 and O3 Mini, and again he has regained his first position. So as on this second, OpenAI is number 1. So I think 3-4 days ago he launched O3. So 3-4 days ago DeepSeek was number one. But again, now Alibaba says, yeah, our model has defeated O3. So it's like a ever-going competition. You have to, it is like those boards, benchmark boards, wherein it keeps changing. Yeah.
So I want to get into the field of AI. Then what should I start with?
Oh, that's great. So if you want to get into the field of Gen AI, I would say the very first step that you should do is you should become a good programmer in Python, because Python has the largest community with respect to AI. And once you are good at Python, you should go ahead and enroll yourself into a Gen AI course. You should go to this YouTube channel called Free Code Camp. Right? I myself have done a lot of certifications, courses from this YouTube channel. They have about 10 million subscribers. They're a fantastic YouTuber, fantastic YouTube channel. So it's called Free Code Camp. And they have a course, I think it's about 18-19 hours. So that's more than enough. It's more than suffice to become an expert in Gen AI. But I'll tell you one thing, right? So AI level, if you want to, make applications, it's not just about learning how LLMs and how to optimize those LLMs and prompt engineering. There's a data engineering aspect of it, right? You need to be a cloud expert, because when you make an application, at the end of the day, you need to be a good programmer to make the application UI and all those things, front end, back end, and then you need to be able to integrate AI with the front end, back end along with the cloud. So you need to have those cloud knowledge, etc. So end to end information, I would suggest learn Python and then learn Gen AI from this YouTube channel, and also learn GCP, because AWS is very complex, because they have been in business for a couple of decades. They were the very first cloud computing company, and GCP is the easiest one to learn. So I would say start with Python, start with Google Cloud Platform, and then start with Gen AI course from YouTube. And GCP, and what they provide is they provide free $300 credits, right? Right now, all of you can learn cloud computing for free of cost, because what happens is in cloud, in order to learn, you have to spend money, right? For example, if you want to know how to host a server costs are huge. For per hour, they charge about $7 to $8 basic server, and 1 hour now it is like almost 800 rupees. And if we forget to switch it off, then we'll end up with a huge bill. And in fact, I myself remember, right, a couple of years ago, I actually had to literally fight with this customer support because of some mistake which I had done. They had debited about 19,000 or 18,000 rupees. And then anyways, they were very magnanimous enough to give that back. But again, in order to stop all these issues, Google itself has given a $300 credit, which is about 25,000 rupees, for you to play and learn cloud, and then you can learn Gen AI from the YouTube channel. Yeah, so this is I think a very good roadmap for becoming a Gen AI expert. Thank you.
Hello, sir. In whether AI will harm humankind, and in what ways AI will lead us in the future, if the answer is no for the first question?
Yeah, so will AI harm humans? I mean, that's a very good idea for making a great movie, because all these apocalypse movies and robots taking over humans, definitely possible. So we can't say it's not possible, but I don't think AI can harm humans physically, but rather by giving us wrong information and leading us into doing wrong stuff. That is definitely possible. When you Google something, now Google Gemini has an overview, right? Whenever you Google something, before you get the websites, there is a very small mini para wherein Google Gemini summarizes whatever data you want to get. And many at times that is completely wrong. When it will say this website has this data, but when you actually go to the website, you won't even find the data. So it can harm in those ways, but I don't think it can physically harm unless we link that up with a humanoid robot.
Considering the future of AI, how do you consider the legal challenges and all the? It is essentially the Wild West currently because there is no regulation or laws.
Yeah, I mean,
And how do you find the blatant disregard for copyright law?
that's a very, very great question. It has a lot of in-depth stuff. So I think you have to leave it to the big boys, right? So you have to leave it to the World Bank and all those leaders to answer that question, right? So as far as a startup owner, as far as it concerns me, I use these LLMs for enterprise use cases, right? As long as they solve those issues, I'm fine with it. Whether it is ethically right, morally right, legally right, all those things. So that is something which that is something we should leave up to the leaders. Right?
Thank you.
You should go and learn Gen AI course from YouTube. So anyways, thanks a lot, and it was an amazing session, and yes, we will connect back soon. Thank you.